One of the questions that I receive a lot of times from my friends and family is, should I buy a car from a dealership or should I buy it from a private party? And truly, there is no right or wrong answer to that. Basically, what you want to find is the best deal. One of the conveniences of buying a vehicle through a dealership is that you do have financing right on hand. Also, there's extended warranties available right on hand if you choose to purchase one. That is one of the benefits. However, there's many good deals on used vehicles in the market from a private party that are selling vehicles. One of the things that I recommend that you do is just make sure that you use some valuable sites. Whether you're buying from a dealership or a private party, you definitely want to know the vehicle's history. On a private party, that is a little bit easier to get. Generally, the customer or the private party has obviously had the car, so you may be able to get more information how it was treated. Buying a used vehicle, on the other hand, from a dealership, in regards to the history, they sometimes pretend to know. They may or may not, depending upon the ethics of the salesperson. They could be telling you the car's history that may not even be true. So one of the ways that you can alleviate this is definitely anytime you go to purchase a used vehicle, go to Carfax.com. Carfax.com is a great resource tool when you're buying a used vehicle. It can tell you how many registered owners there are. It can tell you whether the vehicle's been in any serious wrecks, if it's on record. It can also tell you if it was a salvage title. There's a lot of good information. Now, I recommend that you only run a Carfax report when you know that you have selected a vehicle that you plan to purchase, because they do charge money to run that report. However, I do recommend you do not buy a used vehicle without a Carfax report. The information that you receive there regarding the history of the vehicle is excellent. Now, there is one thing that I'd like to be clear on that. When you go to a dealership, all of them do have Carfax available. But I do recommend that you run that report at home by yourself. For they may provide you the report, depending upon the ethics of the salesperson or the dealership, they may alleviate some pages of that report to hide information that they don't want you to know, because their whole goal is to get the sale. Now, I do have to stand up for most salespeople. They mostly are ethical and they would provide the full report for you. However, to protect yourself, you are spending a large amount of money. Generally, your car purchase is one of the biggest purchases that you make in a lifetime, and it's worth your time to do the investigation to make sure that you've got a good car. With that said, another thing that you would want to look for when purchasing a used vehicle is the mechanical. How do I make sure that this used car is mechanically sound? Well, basically, you have a couple options there. You can get under the hood, you can check the dipstick, make sure there's no rust on there. You can listen for noises, make sure you take it for a good test drive. If you hear any rear end noises coming out of the back, have it checked out. If you hear any noises coming out of the engines, rods knocking, and when you put it into gear, if it slips, you definitely want to make sure that those items are addressed. And you should honestly take any vehicle used that you plan to purchase, have a mechanic check it out for you. Generally, any private party and any dealership by law has to allow you to take that vehicle to a mechanic shop and have it inspected. So that way you know what you're going into, especially on large purchases. If you're going to be financing this car for 5 years, you want to do the best that you can to protect yourself and to protect your investment. It's not all your information is not going to be perfect. You could take a car to a mechanic shop, buy it used. You could have, a transmission go out in 3 months. There's no protection or no guarantees, but there's ways that you can try to protect yourself the best that you can. That's one thing that I highly recommend. When buying a used vehicle, there's another great resource which is called KelleyBlueBook.com. KelleyBlueBook.com gives you values of the vehicles. So when you go to make a bid to a customer, private party, or to negotiate with the dealer, you can have hands-on knowledge of that vehicle's value. If you go into a dealership not knowing what that car's worth and you become friends with the salespeople, believe me, the salespeople are very good. They do this every day. They can make you feel trustworthy in believing that you're getting a good deal when you may not be. You need to be resourceful on your own end so you don't have to rely on anybody else's input. So what I recommend is if you are purchasing a vehicle, private party or through the dealership, you go to kbb.com, that stands for kellybluebook.com. There they provide different values. You simply put in the year, the make, you put in the options that the vehicle that you're looking for has, and it simply will tell you different values. You can get the trade-in value, you can get the retail value, you can get the dealership value. I recommend that you try to negotiate a car closest to the trade-in value as possible. Now on some vehicles such as Toyotas and Hondas, it's very hard to get it at the trade-in value at this time. It's all based on market conditions. But it's very easy to be prepared and know where you're purchasing this vehicle. Are you paying full retail or are you getting trade-in value? Getting trade-in value is getting a good deal. It's not always possible. But the bottom line comes down to, if you like the vehicle and it's a car that you want to purchase, you don't always have to get it for the bottom dollar, but you definitely should protect yourself to get into the car at the best value that you can. And without knowing the values of the vehicles, you could easily get yourself into a vehicle where you owe way too much versus what the actual car is worth. And say down the road you would like to trade it in or change vehicles, this may become a problem for you down the road. So make sure, no matter what, if you're buying a used vehicle, you know what the values are on this vehicle before you proceed.